Greetings, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on holiday recovery. For those of you that need a little help bouncing back from the holidays this year. So I'm going to get my screen share going here, and so then you can follow along with the images that we have here. So here we go. Excellent. All right, so for those of you that are here in this webinar, one thing I know about you is that you're an action taker, that you're somebody that wants to learn of what they can do to take action for their own health. And so in this webinar, I would like to cover the most important things to do when you need to recover your energy, whether it's this time of the year recovering from the holidays or at any time when you just need to do something to recover energy. And I want you to know that what you're going to learn actually could even lower your risk of dying from heart disease, cancer, diabetes, the chronic illnesses that are plaguing 5 out of 6 Americans. And so let's jump right into this and remember that I want you to stay really engaged with me here, because the feedback I get from the people that get the most out of these webinars are the ones that are staying fully engaged. So I'm going to encourage you to turn your phones off, turn off all the other things that you're doing for multitasking, shut the email, like really pay attention, because that's how you're going to get the most out of this. And I don't know about you, but when I hear webinars or I hear speakers, I seem to get more out of them when I know more about what their particular story is. And so I want to, if it's okay with you, just share a little bit of my story. I actually started my journey with chiropractic when I was about 13 years old. And my dad had gone off to become a chiropractor. And when he came home on his first vacation, I had strep throat. And so he came home to a sick little girl. And my mom had already taken me to the pediatrician, and he had given us a prescription for penicillin. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever had strep throat, you know that your throat hurts so bad that you can't even swallow, right? And that's what was happening to me, so that I wasn't swallowing anything. And forget about those pills that were, I don't know, I think they were probably about that big is what I remember when I was 13. And so I didn't take the medication. And so my dad comes home from vacation from chiropractic school, and the first thing he says is, let's check your spine and nervous system. And I said, okay, Dad. And so he checks me and he gives me my first chiropractic adjustment. And wow, I will never forget it. Well, within a few hours, I was able to swallow more easily. It didn't hurt so much. And I got better really fast. And that made a huge impression on me, because I really took it in that, wow, just getting the power turned back on. That's what my dad said that he did, is just he got the power turned back on and my body was able to heal itself. Well, fast forward 3 more years, and now I was 16 years old. My dad was graduating from chiropractic school, and he comes home, and this time he came home to a 16-year-old that was actually pretty stressed. And that's because all of my friends, my girlfriends, they had gone through their change into womanhood. They had started their menstrual cycles, and I had not. And I was really worried that I was not even going to get to have kids. And so when he came home, my mom shared with him that we were stressed, and he says, let's check your spine and nervous system. And so once again, he checks me, he gives me this special adjustment, and within 2 weeks, my cycle starts. So I was convinced that at that point in time, chiropractic was for improving your hormonal system, improving your immune system. I didn't know that most people thought it was just for fixing backaches and neck aches. Well, from that point on, I decided that I was going to become a chiropractor. And I will tell you that this time of the year is a really important time for us looking at the importance of being healthy. And of course, this whole year has been a very stressful year for everybody. And what I realized is the sooner, like starting at 16 years old, when I decided to become a chiropractor, I was always looking at what were the healthiest things that anybody would do in order to protect their health and get healthier. And what I realized is the sooner that we take care of our health, the better. And the more that you wait, the more trouble you're going to have. So I made it a mission to do everything I could to create pivot points to get people on the road to a healthier lifestyle as soon as possible. Because what I saw happening was that if we look at this statistic that 4 out of 5 Americans are dying from chronic illnesses, many of which are preventable. These are lifestyle related illnesses. And I always think to myself, if only I could have gotten to them sooner and created a pivot point. So I hope that this webinar actually can act as a pivot point for you to make changes for yourself with your health and your protocols, your lifestyle choices, not just for you, but for your family as well. And maybe you know friends or family members that are struggling right now. So please, if you find value from this webinar, please share it with them as well so that we can do everything we can to make our community the healthiest community. So why this time of the year? Why do I go into this time of the year? Because we are now still right in the middle of the edges of the holiday red zone. So typically at the end of the year, beginning of the new year is a time when we call it the holiday red zone. And what this is all about is what we call allostatic load. So when we talk about holiday recovery, needing to bounce back from the holidays, that's really because there's been too much overload that has accumulated. And we call that allostatic load. And if you imagine a rain barrel that is filling up and filling up and filling up, at a certain point, it gets overloaded and the water just starts to pour out the top. So an allostatic load is looking at how much resiliency, how much capacity do you have to manage what's going on. And anytime you overload that capacity is when you're going to get into trouble. So when we talk about allostatic load, then we have to recognize that our modern life is very stressful, unnaturally stressful. And the past year we've all gone through has been even more stressful than any year before. And now when we add the holiday time, it's the perfect trifecta of people overloading, spilling over, and getting into trouble with their health. So I wanted to show you like how is this affecting us and what kind of a problem is it, as far as, is it just in our families that we notice this? Is it in our communities? Or is it actually the entire world? Well, I can show you this stat here. So just check this out. This is a graph that shows the whole year from the beginning of July. It goes from the summer to the summer. So it shows 12 months. And what we see is this is the number of cardiac deaths each day as the year goes by. And so we can see that, in the summer months, right, lower levels, but then we start to get into this time of Christmas, New Year's, right? This is known as the holiday red zone because it's when there are the most cardiac deaths every year. Now, this graph was taken from a study that was looking from 1973 to 2001. I promise you, I've looked at the stats. I haven't found one that is going through every year for many years, but each year when I look at it, we see the same thing, this spike in deaths this time of the year. And why is that? I mean, aren't you curious to ask that question? Why is it that these things are happening this time of the year? And when we look at it, really, could it be that, oh, maybe there's just not enough doctors this time of the year, or we run out of medications this time of the year? Is that what's happening? Not enough hospitals, not enough technology, not enough surgery. I mean, if you look at this is over 30 and now we're looking at 50 years. We have the leading edge on technology and medications. We're doing research all the time on this and it still hasn't changed. So it's not because we just are missing that one new drug that's going to fix this. Do you see that? It's not because of deficiency of medications. It's because there are toxicities and deficiencies that are happening, but everything gets magnified and escalated this time of the year. I mean, think about it. Halloween comes and the next thing you know, people start to get the Halloween candy. Then the next thing you know, it's Thanksgiving. Then it's Christmas, New Year's. And most people, once Halloween hits, they just give up and they're just tanking by the time the year ends. So why is it that we have this? Because everything gets ramped up, it gets hyped up during this time of the year. Now, sometimes when people look at these kinds of graphs or statistics, people's eyes kind of glaze over, like, oh, that's too big of a problem, or, oh, whatever, I've got my own things that I need to deal with. But I don't want you to just think that this is someone else's problem. that this is just a massive statistic that doesn't affect an individual. Because where are these statistics coming from? They're coming from people right here in our own community that are contributing to these statistics. And I promise you, this graph, it's the same for Vermont as it is for every other state. We see this across the board. And so how many people here watching this webinar right now, how many people think this is okay? Like, do you think that this is okay that year after year this continues to happen? It's not acceptable to me, and I want to do something about it. I want to help people recover their energy so that next year at this time, they actually finish the year strong. Because I want you to start thinking about applying what you're going to learn in this webinar and have it apply through your whole life, your whole year. And that way you will be finishing the year strong. But let's start this year strong by learning what we can do to recover from the holidays. So first off, when we look at this idea that there is this crisis that happens this time of the year, I want you to think about why this is happening. Why is it that we do this year after year after year? And I want to suggest that there are 3 reasons why we have a healthcare crisis in our country, why this is happening. The first one is, I think that people are using the wrong definition of health. Now, I have a colleague, Dr. James Chestnut, and he says it this way. He says, most people think they're sick because of bad germs or bad genes or bad luck. But what most people don't realize is it's actually bad behavior. Bad behavior is what's causing this crisis, especially this time of the year. So think about it. Do your genes change around the holidays? No, genes don't change around the holidays, but our behavior does. Our behavior is what changes this time of the year. And remember, our lives, they are maxed out 24/7, 365 days a year. But when the holidays hit, we're in super saturation, and that's when things are just spilling over. And this toxic burden of stress, it's often referred to as the holiday hangover. So we are operating under the wrong definition of health. So really, let's unpack this for a minute here. How do you define health? How do you know if you're healthy? What are you using for yourself for your definition of knowing whether you're healthy or not? Most people are thinking, well, it's when I look good or feel good, or maybe I just don't have any symptoms. That's how I know when I'm healthy is I'm not sick. If I'm not sick, then I must be healthy. If that's what you're using, just recognize that many people use this idea and they almost think of health like it's a toggle switch that turns on and off. Like on Monday, I was healthy, but on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, oh, I felt so sick. I was really sick. And then I felt better by Friday, and then I was healthy again. Almost like it's a toggle switch that can turn on and off. And so if that's the way you're thinking of health, then you're going to be in trouble. Because if that's the barometer, I'm just going to hydrate for myself here. The barometer of how healthy you are is how you feel. Let me ask you this. What does heart disease feel like? What does cancer feel like? How about diabetes? What does that feel like? How is it that most people discover that they have diabetes or cancer or heart disease? It's usually from a test that was run where they discovered it. So the early signs of these chronic illnesses tend to be no symptoms, that you feel okay. In fact, the number one sign, actually, let me put it this way. The number one symptom of heart disease, the first symptom of heart disease is no symptom at all. Actually, 51% of people, of these cardiac deaths that we're seeing here in this graph, 51% of these people had no symptom. Their first symptom was a fatal heart attack. 51% of the people. Most people that die of heart attacks had no symptoms. So we can't rely on how we feel to determine how healthy we are. I hope you get that. We need a better definition of health. I mean, even think of something as mundane as a cavity. What does a cavity feel like? By the time you're feeling a cavity, you've already got it hitting the nerve. You're already in trouble. So in any of these chronic illnesses that are killing people this time of the year, we can't rely on how we feel to determine how healthy we are. We need a better definition of health. And if you start to apply this better definition, we have to be looking at how we're functioning. That's what we need to be measuring. And if you get this and can share this with your loved ones that are struggling with these diseases, you could actually save their life. So let's look at this time of the year, specifically the holiday hangover symptoms. Let's just take a look here. Exhaustion, not getting enough sleep, right? Just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Colds and flu go up this time of the year. And we certainly have had a spike with COVID this time of the year. Headaches go up. Digestion tanks this time of the year. Digestion problems go up. Weight gain, right? The holiday 10, the holiday 20, right? Irritability, pain, anxiety, depression. Depression is rampant this time of the year. And remember that this year, our Christmases were probably, our holidays were very different than they usually would be. There have been a lot more isolation, and depression levels are skyrocketing. Calls to suicide lines are up 30 times more than they usually are. And this is the time of the year when they're at the highest. So we know that this is a really important time of the year of when stress has really maxed out for people. And so these are the common ways that the holiday hangover shows up. And these are what I'll commonly see in my practice, these things right here. So we refer to these symptoms that we see here as body signals, right? Because we really do see that the body is smart. It's designed to be healthy. And it's also designed to let you know when you are starting to move away from health. So when we see these, this is an alert system. This is an alarm system that your body is using, telling you you've already lost a lot of function at this point, and now you're starting to move away from health. And yet what happens this time of the year is that people tend to go to the medicine cabinet to help them feel better as the stress levels continue. And so they are using medications most of the time to try and manage all of this. So really what your body is asking you to do at this point is, as these signals show up, it's asking you to make a change. Making a change in how you're eating, how you're thinking, how you're moving, your sleep patterns. You know, you touch something hot, ow, that's hot, put it down, move away from that thing that is hot, that is burning you, right? Or you eat a poison berry and then you get sick. That's your body learning with a body signal now to tell you, don't touch that berry again, right? So oftentimes our body may whisper at us at first, and then it starts to scream. And so these are the signals of their body screaming at us, telling us that we need to change what we're doing. So when we look at all of this, right, these are the typical downstream symptoms of having overloaded your body during this time of the year. And these are the consequences. Many people think of these things as the problem. No, the problem is that you overloaded your system. This is the consequence of those problems. And people, again, are just told, oh, just keep pushing, keep going, just take these drugs, ignore the symptoms, just suck it up. Oh, it's all in your head, you know, oh, just push on, push on. And so people, again, they're going right to the drugs that will cover up the symptoms. Their body's crying out for help, and they're just covering it up with drugs. So they feel better as they're actually getting sicker until they just crash. Okay, who's been there, right? Who knows this, right? And unfortunately, this is the new normal. And this is the part that concerns me the most, is that we've just normalized this. So we need a better definition of health. Who's with me here? And in order to better understand this idea of body signals, let's unpack this a little bit. So we have this program called the Body Signals Program, where we do a different webinar every month on different symptoms. And our purpose is to help you understand the body language that your body's giving you on those particular symptoms that go with that condition, so that you can understand what's going on, and then you can take steps to reconcile that. So the way that you think about symptoms actually is going to drive your choices. Now, the symptoms that are typically the tip of the iceberg, telling us that there may be something more going on. There may be a bigger problem going on below the surface. But if all we do is just try to cover up and mask the symptoms that are showing, then we may actually not be addressing what is the bigger problem underneath. And so we every month look at a different topic so that we can understand the symptoms that are associated with that theme, and then how you can take that information and interpret these symptoms. And so that you and your friends and your family, anybody that you know that's struggling with these things, can get to the root cause. And that's when, once you get to the root cause, that's when you can understand what you need to do to correct it. So talking about symptoms, let's put it all in a reference here. And by the way, if you're curious about, you want to get on our list so that you hear about our upcoming webinars when they happen, just go to our website, wellspringcls.com, and you can get on our email list and we'll let you know when we have our next webinar coming up. So if we look at this wellness paradigm here, what we see is that this is a continuum. And so at the end here, we have, at this left-hand side is where we have premature death, right? And at the right is when we have high levels of wellness. Do you see this continuum here? So the perfect expression of health is at this right-hand side, and at the left, we see early death. So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, where are you on this continuum? And I want you to get that there are 3 areas here. There's the area where we have people that are sick at the left hand or lower end. We have people in the middle that are not sick, but then we have people at the other side that are healthy. So there's 3 zones here, right? And so when we talked about that idea of there being a toggle switch, I'm healthy today, and then I'm unhealthy because I feel sick, and then the next day I'm healthy again. I want to reframe that, because what we find is that in this neutral point where there are no symptoms, you're not necessarily actually healthy, you're just not sick. And if you're just not sick, you're actually closer to dysfunction, where symptoms are going to start to show up. And that's when people usually say that they're becoming sick, is when they start to feel the symptoms. Okay, so I want you to get that this is a continuum here, and that the lower your function is, the more you're going to be moving towards the left. And eventually your body's going to start screaming out to you saying, you're moving too far away from health, you're entering the danger zone. And that's what symptoms are. So first off, ask yourself this question: where are you right now? Do you actually have symptoms of some kind that are going on? That means that you're already in this lower level of function. Maybe you don't have symptoms, but you've had some testing done where you have some signs of some trouble going on. You've maybe had blood pressure testing or blood sugar testing, and you are managing it with medications, but you may not be doing what you need to do to actually gain function and improve your health. So I want to first ask you, where are you right now? But the next question that's important is, what direction are you heading? Everybody's going to be moving in one direction or the other. Some people are working at their health and moving more and more towards healthier and healthier. Some people are already living at this level of high levels of health, and they're working at what it takes to stay there. If you're not consciously aware and educating yourself and growing into doing what it takes to be as healthy as possible, then in our culture is probably pushing you towards this lower level of function, towards symptoms. And eventually, when symptoms cannot be corrected anymore, that's called a disability. And then that's getting you closer and closer to an earlier death. So I love this continuum to look at, because it actually helps to reframe how we're looking at health. And the symptoms are what are telling you that what direction you're heading, that you're moving away from health. So everybody's moving one direction or the other, and everybody has a certain velocity, how fast they're moving in one direction or the other. So if you have a lot of good health practices, and then just at Christmas time or a holiday time that you like drop down a little bit, you're going to drop a little bit, and then you're going to get right back on track. You can manage that. But if you're already just living here and the holidays hit and it's overwhelming to you, and then you're going to be moving further down here, and you might move faster in this direction, right? And so you can take a look at the sum of the lifestyle choices that you're making. That's what's going to determine how fast you're moving in one direction or the other. Okay. So I hope that this is useful for you to learn how to speak body, because once you start to recognize the symptoms are telling you you're moving away from health, I want you to start thinking about what actions you can take to get yourself moving the other direction. Certainly, if you have symptoms showing up and all you're doing is taking medications so you don't feel them, your functional level may actually continue to go worse without feeling it, without knowing, and you could be putting yourself into jeopardy. So please understand, you need to learn how to interpret body signals so that you can make better decisions. And so remember, if you're making better decisions, that's going to lead to better choices, and that's going to lead to better behaviors. So ask yourself, first off, what is your objective? So if you go to the medicine cabinet when you have symptoms, what is your objective? Is your objective simply to feel better, or is your objective to actually get healthier? If your objective is to get healthier, then you may need to start making different decisions, which is going to lead to different choices and different behaviors. So the way that you think, your belief system, is what's going to organize your behavior. And then your behavior is going to lead to your choices, which is going to lead to your outcomes. So nowadays, when we see this time of the year, the holiday red zone, we see the outcomes are not good for a lot of people. It's because their behaviors are not good, right? So we need to learn how to behave better, meaning make better choices. And that's going to drive us in this paradigm that's going to lead us to high-level wellness. So that is the first reason why people, I think they're using the wrong definition of health. They think that just because they don't have symptoms that they're healthy, when really this is where high-level health is. The second reason I think we have a problem is that people are just not taking personal responsibility for their health outcomes, because we have an answer in a pill bottle for poor behavior choices where we can just cover up those symptoms and help you manage that. Well, this year, for many people, it has become very clear that simply managing their symptoms with medications has actually put them at higher risk. We had made it in our culture, we've made it okay to just manage chronic illness with drugs and just keep living the way you've been living. And now that actually has put a target on people, so they are at more risk for example, having a worse outcome with COVID-19. So really what we have to recognize is it's not enough anymore to just try to manage these symptoms with medications. I want to create pivot points for people so they can just start to drive their health upwards, so they can start making the changes they need to make and supporting them so that they're successful with it, so that they get the higher levels of health that they really want. And so, really think about it. Who is taking responsibility for your health? Think about that. Are you giving that responsibility up to somebody else to make those decisions, right? Who is it? Is it your spouse? Is it your doctor? Is it your personal assistant? How they schedule you? Is it your insurance company's responsibility? I hope not, right? Because you're going to be in trouble if you're leaving it up to your insurance company, right? Hopefully it's you. Hopefully, ultimately, you understand that you are the one that is responsible for your health. You are responsible for you and your family's health. And I hope you agree with me on this, because simply taking responsibility is one of the first steps that people need to do in order to start moving in the direction of high-level health and wellness. Now, there's a third reason why I think we have the health crisis that we have today, and I'm going to cover that at the end because I've got some more pieces to the puzzle to put together. But the number one, again, is looking closer at the underlying premise of the belief we have about health. So would you agree that we need a better premise to start from? So I'd like to share what I think is a better premise. The first is that healthy is normal. Healthy is normal. Unhealthy is the norm, but healthy is actually what's normal. Okay? Who's with me on that? Right? Your body is smart. Your body is smart. It's giving you the signals if you just need to listen to them, though. So your body is smart. Stop choking your body with chemicals and drugs and treating your body like it's stupid, right? Just feeling better as you're getting worse is not as smart as your body is when your body is screaming out to you. So what we find in our culture is people are being pushed to just go from pill to pill, from injection to injection, from surgery to surgery, just feeling better as they're getting worse. And so we need to change that. And just recognizing that your body is smart is a pivot point that people can use to start thinking differently about how they're managing their health. The nervous system is the master system. The nervous system is the master system. It is in charge of coordinating the functions of every other system in our body. And so because it is the master system, it is so important. It's the only system that is fully encased in bone in our bodies, right? Our skull is the helmet that protects our brain. Our spinal column is the suit of armor that protects our spinal cord. And that's how important the nervous system is, because it's controlling and coordinating every other function in the body, every other system in the body. So our spine is our suit of armor that protects our nervous system. And then let's just recognize that we actually are living in a modern world that is unnaturally stressful. It's not the way our bodies were designed to be living. If you look at how our bodies were designed, pretty much they haven't changed in their design in over 40,000 years. So if we look back 40,000 years ago at what our lives were like, the levels of stresses that we had, the natural way we were living, we were in tune, in sync, in harmony with nature. And it was the time when we were the super species on the planet. Like 40,000 years ago, human beings were able to travel, Homo sapiens were able to go anywhere on the planet pretty much, and not just survive, but actually thrive. So we were the super species on the planet that could go anywhere and thrive. Now, when we look at human beings, we're the sickest species on the planet, right? We're the only species that has the level of chronic illness compared to any other species. And if we looked at another species and we saw that they were starting to tank in their health, we would look at those body signals they were giving, and we would look at what have we done to screw up their environment and make them sick. And then we would fix what we did to screw up their environment, and then we'd see that they were getting healthy, right? So what happened that we would pay attention to the body signals that animals and other species are giving us, but we're not paying attention to our own body signals that our bodies are giving us. So again, modern life is unnaturally stressful. And so let's just take a look at what does it take to be better at adapting to stress? Because we have been trying for many years, since the 1980s is really when stress became a topic that was identified and talked about. And the usual strategy is how to mitigate that stress, how to minimize that stress, how to get rid of your stresses, build a bubble around you so that you can get away from these stresses, right? But tolerating stress better, being more robust, I think is a better strategy than trying to run away and hide from these stresses. I think our bodies were designed to be healthy, and that means being able to adapt to the stresses of our environment. And so what if you were able to learn how to not just tolerate stress better, but master stress? What if you were able to master stress? What if you and your family became so robust that you were badasses when it came to managing the stresses that you're under, so that you were able to deal with these stresses and even greater stresses and come out on the other side stronger from it? So that's what I want to share with you is, what do we need to be doing through our health and our physiology to be able to manage and master these stresses? And let's just take a look at what we mean by stress and recognize that it's coming at us from all angles, that there are actually 3 dimensions to stress. There's thoughts, toxins, and traumas, right? There's 3 categories here that we're going to unpack, because most people don't consider all of these stresses hitting us all at the same time. And you're going to see during this holiday red zone that this is when we're being maxed out on all 3 categories. So, and by the way, when I say that we're all being maxed out by these different categories this time of the year, I just wanted to remind you that actually Santa does come to get adjusted every year. And, you know, he knows that he can see when you've been naughty and nice, and he's got his list, and he tells me everything. I know all about those indulgences that you've been taking, right? He doesn't care about HIPAA privacy. He just tells me what's going on. I know who's on the list there. I know what you've been doing. So, and we know that these stresses are cumulative. They're cumulative through the whole year. And then this time of the year, they just get maxed out and they create such a burden on the body. So again, let's unpack these now. We're starting with thoughts here. So the first of the 3 T's, thoughts, toxins, and traumas, is thoughts. And recognize that our thought life really is what is driving mental emotional stress, our thought life. And so how do we get stressed? Like, why do we get stressed? It's because that emotional mental stress around the holidays, it is putting a demand, and it threatens and competes with all our limited resources. When we get stretched out beyond our resources, we experience stress. And at holiday times, it's when things are already competing. and then it just gets amped up. So the holidays are a big demand on us. So I want you to look at these 4 resources that we have, our 4 limited resources. Remember, humans are economists. We were designed to have a level of economy, and we were hardwired to protect and marshal our 4 limited resources. So these are time, energy, focus, and money. And when you think of energy, I want you to be thinking of food as a representation of energy, because if we, again, go back 40,000 years, energy was at a premium. For us to get the food that we needed, we had to expend a lot of energy. We had to go hunting and gathering, and that took a lot of energy in order to get the calories and the nutrients that we needed to feed our bodies, to supply our bodies with the energy that we needed so that we could go back out on the hunt again and provide for our families and our tribe. And so we actually have a system that's in the brain that's set up that is always on the alert for anything that might threaten us. So we are going to experience stress whenever our 4 limited resources are threatened. And so we're programmed to get stressed whenever, for example, if our energy levels are down, our bodies are thinking, whoa, it's really hard for us to get energy. And so we're going to try to protect that. And so everything has changed since 40,000 years ago, where the pace of our lives is completely unnatural. The demands are extraordinary on us. And of course, if we think of when we were super species on the planet, right, the natural state was actually extraordinary health. We were designed to have extraordinary health when we're living in harmony with nature. But now the common state is extraordinary stress. And the problem is that we've normalized that. We just call that the way it is. And, buck up, you just have to deal with it and keep going. So modern life is already unnaturally stressful. And then we just add the extra demands of the holiday season. And it does have a compound effect. And it causes us to go into a stress physiology. So let's take a look at, when stress hormones are running rampant in our body, it has both a direct and an indirect impact on our health and our well-being. So when we look at this here, I want to just unpack this a little bit. So our nervous system has two parts to it. We have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic part of the nervous system is the active or stress response that we go into. The parasympathetic part is the rest and healing digestion kind of way to run the body. So when we are stressed, our sympathetic nervous system takes over. And just think about this. If you were, at a watering hole, just trying to get some hydration going, and suddenly you notice there's some movement over in the grass, and oh boy, it's a lion over there on the other side of the water hole, right? So your body is going to immediately go into a sympathetic dominance in order to save your life. And so when the lion is chasing you, what's going to happen? Well, your blood pressure is going to go up. Your heart rate is going to go up so that you can run as fast as possible and get the energy out to the muscles that are moving your body as fast as possible. Your muscle tone will tighten up so you're ready to run and fight. Your digestion is going to be upset. So the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to vacate your digestive system, right? Oh my gosh, right? Vacate at one end, and then you're just going to slow down and stop digestion, because this is not a time when you want to be eating your lunch, right? This is a time when you're running, and digestion uses up resources. So you slow down and stop digestion. You're going to decrease serotonin, not a good time to be sleeping. Your sensory system is going to be hyped up and magnified. And that's going to drive that fear and anxiety, which is what's saving your life right now. Your immune response is going to tank. And the reason is because the immune system has an incredible demand. It's a very expensive system to run. And so when a lion is chasing us, we actually are going to dampen down the immune response to save our energy to put it into running and fighting. And we want to put it on pause, because once the lion goes away, if we're injured, we're going to need to ramp up that immune response then. All right, so then the insulin sensitivity is going to also be changed. And that's because we actually do want a lot of blood sugar happening. We don't want to remove the blood from the sugar from the blood, which is what insulin does. and it stores it in as fat. We actually want to be using that sugar in the bloodstream to fuel the muscles so they can do their work. And so blood sugar is going to go up, insulin sensitivity is going to go down. We're also going to have a flip of our lipids. So we're going to have a decrease in the DHDLs, and we're going to have an increase in the LDLs. That means cholesterol is going to go up as well. And the reason is because these are lipids, the LDLs are what are used to repair injuries. So if you get, mauled by that lion, your body actually is going to want to repair that tissue right away. And we use cholesterol and these LDLs to repair wounds. Clotting factors are going to go up too, just to be ready for that. If that wound happens, that we're ready to clot. And sex drive is going to go down because it's not a good time to make babies when the lions are around, right? And so this is what happens in a typical stress response. It's an adaptive physiology. It's designed to save our life. So this adaptive physiology, it will save our lives in the short term. But if this is the strategy our body is using in the long run, it's going to shorten our lives in the long run. Can you see that what this is setting up? This is like a heart attack waiting to happen. If it's happening in the absence of a lion, if this is what's happening and it's ongoing, this is what's creating chronic illness. And so again, setting people up for diabetes, heart disease, and heart attacks. So when we look back at our holiday red zone, right, the results are in, and it's it builds up to a crescendo as all these physiological changes follow suit in their genetic programming. This is the way we were genetically designed to respond to stresses. And the problem is that modern life is unnaturally stressful. So when we think about, if we have an infection, what system in our body helps us deal with infections? It's our immune system that does that, right? You know that. What system helps us deal with food? It's our digestive system. What system helps us to move around and deal with gravity? That's our musculoskeletal system, right? So you understand what these systems do. But which system is it that actually helps us to deal with stress? Which system in our body deals with stress? It's our nervous system. Our nervous system is what deals with stress. So who here thinks that life is stressful anyway? Like the whole year, all of last year has been so stressful, right? The most stressful time in many years for many people. And if you think that the stress is just going to now simply go away, right? Just because we're coming through the holiday red zone? No, of course not. Stress will continue. And then next year at this time, we're going to see this spike again. So if we all agree that unwanted stress is what's making us sick, you all agree with that, right? You all would say, yep, stress makes us sick. Nobody objects to that. We are on the same page with that. What we need to do is understand how our body is designed to deal with that stress. And if you actually did know how to become more resilient to stress, then you could start to apply it. So that's what I want to share with you. I mean, who here would like to know exactly how to tolerate stress better, how to cope with stress better, how to become nearly bulletproof when it comes to dealing with stresses that undoubtedly are going to be facing us in the future, right? Stresses are not going to go away. And remember, if you help me out with this, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting, right? We know that phrase. So listen, if you are not satisfied with the results that you're getting on how you're able to manage your stresses, then you're going to have to just start doing things differently. And if you're ready for a different approach, then that's what I want to show you. And please reach out to me if you are ready to make some changes and just are not sure what to do next. Please reach out to me. I would love to sit down with you and talk it over and see where you need some clear direction that could make a big difference for you. I mean, when I think of the people that have been in my practice, for example, this time of the year, I have a woman, she actually started care a number of years ago. And when she started, it was this time of the year, and she was just maxed out with stress. She actually had to quit her job because it was too stressful for her. And she came into the practice because she was not able to take a bus ride to New Hampshire for holiday shopping. She was in so much stress and pain and poor function that she couldn't even tolerate a bus ride to the next state, right? And so we got started with her and we did a very thorough analysis of what was going on. We did a full exam. We got clear about what her goals were. Her goal was, I just want to be able to go on a bus to go shopping. And I can't do that right now. And she had to actually quit her job because it was so stressful. She was on tons of medication and it was impacting her life in a big way. Like her quality of life was pretty low. So she comes in, we do our assessment. I realized that indeed I can help her. We give her recommendations. She follows all of our recommendations. And she just started to get her energy back. She was able to start moving her body. Not only was she able, by the end of that year, and the next year came around, not only was she able to take a ride to go on a shopping trip, she was actually snowshoeing. So she had exceeded what her original goals were when she started care, and she was living at a much higher level of quality of life. So I know that so now let's just start to look at what is it that we need to start doing and stop doing. What do you need to start slowing down? What are the do's and the don'ts of how to recover from holiday stress, how to get your energy back? And I know that there's many different people that are watching this webinar that are at all different levels with their health and lifestyle choices. So I know we have kind of freshman level people that are just trying out this idea of living a healthier lifestyle. And then we have people that are graduate level. They've been studying this for a long time, and they're just looking for what other edge they could get to just take their health to an even higher level. So we've got the whole range. We've got the whole range right here in our practice as well. So I don't want you to feel overloaded if you're just starting out on this. I'm going to give you lots of different recommendations, but if you're new to this, don't feel overloaded about all the changes that you're going to have to make. I want you to start out just thinking more about how can I just take more responsibility for my health and just get started with the basics. So as I give you recommendations, I'm going to give you kind of the basic level. So just go there to start. And if you're already doing those things, I'm going to give you what's the next thing you could do to level yourself up. And I recommend if you're new to this, just start with the basics of addition. Like at the most, just adding is the first thing, and leave the calculus and the trig for the more advanced students. So just think about what you can do to add more health in each of the categories that we're going to go over. All right, that's simple. Everybody can do that. Just add more health. All right, so first off, let's look at thinking for recovery. If you want to recover your energy, these are the things that are going to cover ground the fastest with. Choosing your attitude. We can't always choose our situation. And this year has been such a big learning experience for that so much has changed, and we couldn't necessarily change the situation, but we can always change our attitude. And that actually is a skill set. It's something to develop. And some people have come through this year being able to recover because they changed what their skill set was. They learned how to recover better. They learned how to choose their attitude. And some people have been tanked from it because the stress has been so extraordinary. So I find the easiest way to choose your attitude is first, just start with some cleansing breaths, some deep breaths in and out. Maybe just 3 or 4 breaths can allow you to just take a moment and shift. Deep cleansing breaths. And then I find that choosing gratitude is one of the fastest ways to change your attitude. So just thinking of the people that are important in your life, or the things in your life that are important to you, that you can be grateful for. And if you think back on how those people or things ended up in your life, you can be grateful for the circumstances that led to that as well. And sometimes there were stressful circumstances that led to changes in your life that actually now you're very grateful for those changes and grateful for those people. And so think about how your life would be different right now if you hadn't had those experiences. That's a really good way to just be able to move towards gratitude. Connection, acceptance, and respect. Okay, these are things that people are hardwired to require. This is part of our genetic makeup. We require connection, acceptance, and respect in order to experience health. It actually is because it brings with it a survival advantage. If you are connected with the tribe, if you're accepted by the tribe, if you have respect in the tribe, you will be a part of the tribe. But if you lose these things, you will be ousted. And that basically was suicide 40,000 years ago if you were not incorporated in the tribe. So you have to make sure that you have healthy relationships around you. And energy exchange is an important part of having a healthy relationship. So be mindful of the energy exchanges in your relationships. You know, some friends, they need to be fired and loved from afar. You know, if there isn't a good balance of energy exchange, then some change needs to happen in that relationship. When we think of unconditional love, right, that's choosing to tolerate and love somebody despite their behavior. It doesn't mean that you're in a state of unconditional approval of their behavior. It means you're in unconditional love of them as an individual, regardless of the choices that they've made. And with that comes grace. And I promise you, we all need grace. We all need to be forgiven and loved, even when we don't feel like we deserve it. And so to offer that grace to others, even if they don't deserve it, is so healing and can add so much to recovering energy. And so remember, unconditional love despite behavior is really what grace is all about. I like this phrase, ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian phrase. And it basically means, I'm sorry for anything that I or any of my ancestors have done that has created a situation where you have to play this part. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. And that phrase, ho'oponopono, says that entire paragraph that I just said. That's what it stands for. So whenever I find myself in a place where I'm feeling judgmental about something or feeling overwhelmed, like what can I possibly do to help this situation? Oftentimes we will be stressed when we feel like there's nothing we can do. And I find that phrase ho'oponopono is so helpful for me to reframe my attitude towards it. I also find that there's actual techniques that you can use. EFT, emotional freedom technique. It's learning to tap on the endpoints of acupuncture meridians in order to manage stress better. And it literally turns off that reticular activating system in our brain that is on guard all the time, watching when our resources are being threatened, right? And so by doing the EFT tapping in the amygdala, it turns off that stress switch. And suddenly 30 seconds later, we're not stressed anymore. So this is a really important strategy to use this time of the year. And I've done a whole workshop on just emotional freedom technique, EFT, but it's a very valuable technique. I find the work of Byron Katie, a book she wrote called Loving What Is very useful. I love this book because in the first 20 pages, it goes through everything you need to know about how to shift from a stress state into a state of centered, peaceful, and just centered. So, and thinking clearly. So she actually was somebody that was locked away in a psychiatric unit, throw away the key, like not expected to come out. And she figured out that there were 4 questions that she could ask herself. And once she asked herself these 4 questions, boom, she came right to a state of clarity and stableness. And so she wrote a book on it called Loving What Is. And again, you learn everything you need in the first 20 pages. So I highly encourage you to take a look at that book if you haven't had a chance to, and learn what those 4 questions are that will bring you right back to being centered. You know, meditation is another tool that people can use for thinking for recovery. And if you're new to meditation, there's a great app out there. It's called Headspace, and it has 10 meditation sessions that it leads you through, 10 minutes each. And it really helps you understand how you can learn to meditate on your own. And it's a free app. So check that out if you are thinking that meditation may be something that's helpful for you. All right. Sleeping for recovery. Sleep, it's so important. And this time of the year, right? This is when we have been maxed out and just not getting enough sleep. So really you want to look at what can you do to protect the rhythm of your sleep? Protecting your rhythm. We all have a circadian rhythm, which is our body's natural rhythm that is tied into light and dark cycles. So our sleep awake cycles are tied into the darkness that comes when the sun goes down. And when the sun comes up, then our bodies actually go into a different rhythm. And so it's tied to light. And so getting really good sleep during the dark part of the day is key. And the most valuable times to be making sure that you're asleep are from the times between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's when the most valuable sleep happens. So getting to sleep so that you have that deep, deep sleep from 11 to 1 is where you're going to get the most value from sleeping. So let's say you have a big project and you're staying up late and then you're going to sleep late. It actually would be better for you to go to bed at 10 and get up early. If you're not going to get enough sleep, get up early so that you actually can have that most important time to get your sleep. So if you can't get your 8 or 9 hours of sleep in and you're only going to get, say, 5 hours in, it would be better to go to bed at 10 and wake up at 3 early and work on that project in the morning than it would be to just stay up really late and only get 5 hours going to bed late. So early to bed, early to rise is another good rule to go by. And actually having it be the same 7 days a week, those are the best practices when it comes to sleep. Doing an e-fast. An e-fast means shutting off screens and electronics 60 minutes before sleep. That's what the best practices are, because the blue light that comes from screens actually turns our melatonin off, which is our sleep hormone. And so it can make it difficult to actually go to sleep when it's time to go to sleep. Taking naps actually count. So naps are a beautiful way to help to sleep for recovery. And so the most healthy, happy, successful people in the world take naps on a regular basis. Just a little 20-minute power nap actually goes a long way for recovery and restoring your energy. And remember, don't overcommit. No is a love word, right? Saying no to things that really are not in your best interest and your best use of your energy, especially during the holiday time of the year. This is the time, this is how we can recover from being overloaded by the holidays and recovering our energy. And then check your expectations of yourself and of others. Having clear expectations and agreements, and when you need to renegotiate those, doing it in a very clear way is the key for recovery. So no superhero syndrome here, right? Nobody's trying to be the superhero. Have clear expectations and agreements. Okay, the next source of stress is toxins. Coming off the holiday red zone and recovering after the holiday hangover. Okay, you know what some of those toxins are. Let's look at them. Eating for recovery. Never go hungry. So when you try to, you get so busy that you didn't have a chance to eat, or you're trying to cut down on how much you're eating and your calories, when you go into hunger mode, your willpower will tank. And then anything that's in front of you is going to go into your mouth. And so you need to make sure that you're never going hungry. So you want to make sure that you have the healthiest foods available to you on a regular basis at the times when you need them, so you're not going hungry. And then the battle is won at the register. So again, if you have things in the house, you're going to eat them. We do not have willpower to deal with things once they're in the house. So don't let them in the house. The battle is won at the register. Make smart decisions at the grocery store. And remember to eat before you go to the grocery store, because if you're hungry in the grocery store, then it's going to be hard at the register. Don't drink your calories, right? Calories this time of the year in the form of alcohol or sweet drinks. Drinking your calories is going to undermine your energy levels, because it can oftentimes, with the loaded sugar, it's going to cause a spike and then a drop. And that drop is what tanks your energy. And in fact, avoiding the white stuff as well, it does the same thing. So white sugar, white flour, right? Those are the things that will cause more of a spike in your blood sugar. And then it's followed by that down slide of your energy. Filling yourself with healthy foods. So just make sure that when you are choosing what you're going to eat, you're going to choose the thing that is the healthiest, and fill yourself up on the healthy stuff first. And then, if there is something left over, that still some room, you're not going to eat as much of that if you filled yourself with healthy foods. Your willpower will be much stronger if you have a full belly with healthy foods to be able to say no to the things that get offered that somehow did get into the house. More rules for eating for recovery. Unlimited vegetables. So what are those healthy foods? Unlimited vegetables, plenty of lean cuts of natural meats, fish and eggs, some fruits, nuts, and seeds, some, but you want to have the ratio of vegetables to fruits. You want to have 4 servings of vegetables for every 1 serving of fruit. And then no refined carbohydrates and sugars. Okay, so can we please make a distinction here? We've just come through the holiday season. And in fact, Valentine's Day is not far away. And this is where treats actually need to be defined, because some people talk about snacks and some people talk about treats. So can we please make a distinction here between treats and snacks? Treats are unhealthy, occasional indulgences. Snacks are healthy and can be eaten often. Okay, so make that discernment. So if you're going to snack on something, it can't be a treat. It has to be in that category of healthy, and it should be unlimited vegetables, lean cuts of natural meats, fish and eggs, some fruits, nuts, and seeds. That's what our snacks should be made of. Treats are in that category of refined carbohydrates and sugars, all right? And so, you know, a lot of people actually are not even that aware of what they actually are eating. And so I recommend that you just have a period of time that you do a diet journal where you actually record all the things that you are eating. And oftentimes people are surprised at, you know, what actually did slip in and what actually is not getting in that they thought was. And so a diet journal can be a great way to just track that. Now, if you're working in the practice with me, feel free to bring in a diet journal. We can review it together. But I think for the most part, the greatest value is opening the eyes for people to see for themselves what changes they need to make because of what's actually getting in. All right. Now, what about supplementation? Again, adding more healthy foods. And so let's just go through this idea of what order you could do it in. So if you are just at the basic level, right, eating for recovery just means just add more healthy foods in, plants, fats, proteins. Don't worry so much in the beginning about removing and subtracting and denying yourself of the unhealthy foods. The best strategy is to just add more healthy foods. The second strategy, if you're already there, is to look at the 3 exchanges you can make on the anti-inflammatory foods. So in the 3 categories of sugars, grains, and oils, there are healthy sugars. So you could replace the unhealthy high fructose corn syrup or cane sugar or beet sugar. You can exchange that for the healthier forms, such as maple syrup or raw honey or stevia or coconut palm sugar, erythritol, those kinds of things. For grains, you want to look at going away from the inflammatory grains and replacing those with the ancient grains. The ancient grains are the ones that are going to be less inflammatory. So taking the things like wheat, for example, and replacing it with things like rice or quinoa or amaranth or those types of ancient grains. And then the oils, remember the most inflammatory oils are the vegetable oils, the things like corn oil or soybean oil or canola oil. Those are the ones that are inflammatory. And so replacing those with coconut oil or avocado or the healthy animal fats would be the best way to go there. Now, if you're already doing that, you might want to start looking at how you're eating, the rhythm of your eating. And so mostly you're going to be undermined when you just try to decrease the amount that you're eating, but think instead about eating more but less often. So really looking at eliminating snacks, just eating 3 square meals a day and eliminating the snacks in between. And then for those of you that have already got that down and you want to become more fat adapted, you can look at intermittent and block fasting as another way to recover energy. So many people will do a detox this time of the year or a fast this time of the year in order to recover their energy. So if you're new to the game, again, just start with the basics and then just find which piece here is going to be the best one to level you up if you've already been practicing some of these healthy lifestyle choices already. All right, so now what about supplementation? So I find that these are the key things for recovering energy, especially after the holidays. So probiotics are key for just making sure that our guts have the healthiest microbiome as possible. And if you're eating a lot of probiotic foods already, like kombucha or apple cider vinegar or kefir or yogurt, for example, sauerkraut, kimchi. These are the foods that actually will help to build a lot of diversity in your gut. And if you're not doing that yet, then a probiotic supplement would be the first step of that. But once you actually get a lot of diversity in your diet with these probiotic foods, then you should be able to drop out the probiotic supplement. Vitamin D with vitamin K is key. It's probably one of the most important hormones in our body is vitamin D. It's actually a hormone, even though we think of it as a vitamin. And so that is so important to have. And especially in Vermont, this time of the year, when the darkness has come, the light's starting to come back now, but we actually are not going to be getting any vitamin D from the sun in the winter. So supplementing with vitamin D and vitamin K is so important. B complex, right? It's essential for stress. So the B vitamins get all used up when we are stressed. And so adding a B complex this time of the year can be really helpful for recovering your energy. Fish oil, also very important. It's so important for brain health, building your nervous system. Every cell membrane needs to have omega-3s, and fish oil, it has the perfect balance of the omega-3s that our body needs. And so it's very anti-inflammatory and again, great for the brain and for our hormones. I think of it as the anti-serum to the modern world of low-level inflammatory burdens. So just make sure that some good fish oil is getting in. Boswellia and turmeric are also anti-inflammatory and great for the joints, and turmeric especially is good for inflammation anywhere in the body. It actually helps the body to resolve chronic inflammation. And then there's a product called Ion Biome. It used to be called Restore, really important for restoring the integrity of the gut. If you have struggled with leaky gut or have some digestive issues, then it's a wonderful tool for restoring and recovering from that. It actually helps to heal the gut lining. SP green food is, if you're not eating enough vegetables, this is a great way to get those greens in. And then SP cleanse is one of the safest detoxes for the liver, the lymph, and the kidneys. And gastrofiber is the safest detox for the bowels. So many times people want to do a detox or do something that's a program to recover. And so I want to introduce you to some of the important things there. So again, recovery supplementation, Ion Biome and Restore, it used to be called Restore, is great for the gut. And the omegas are so important. I love our Wellspring Omega. I'm very proud of that. That has, it's made from cod liver oil, and it's fantastic for using as that omega-3 supplementation that you may need. Now, if you are curious about detoxing, if you're just starting out, even just adding SP Cleanse and Gastrofiber can go a long way in helping your body to just begin those first levels of detox. If you want to go a little bit more strong with it, you can do the 10-day detox program that we have here in the office. I love the standard process detox program. And then if you want to really get into it, there is a 21-day purification program also done by standard process that I love. And this month we have a lot of people in the office that are doing the detox. So if you want to join with us on that, just call the office and we can get you set up with that, or reach out to us through our website. And the office number is 802-985-9850. That's 802-985-9850. Just reach out to us if you're curious about how you can get into a detox with us. And then if you are struggling with some really serious toxins in your body, perhaps some heavy metal toxicity or the brain inflammation or other types of deep toxicities, there is a program called True Cellular Detox, which is a 3-month program and longer for some people. And so if you are curious about that, again, just reach out to us and I'll give you some resources here in the next slide. And then again, if you're at the graduate or PhD level, for detoxing, the intermittent block fasting can be a really good way to detox as well. So if you go to our website, wellspringcls.com/TCD, that is where you can learn more about the TCD program. And there's some videos that you can watch there as well. All right, so now if we look at one other, just a little bit more detail on the ways that you could be detoxing. SB Cleanse and Gastrofiber would be that first level. And then the 10-day level is the SP Detox Balance Program, so a 10-day detox where you're going to use a powder that you make smoothies with, and it's all vegan. So it's a great tool that you could use. Then we have SP Complete, Whole Food Fiber, SP Cleanse, and SP Green Food, all put together in a 21-day program. And the True Cellular Detox, again, it's a 3-month program to get started with, and it's a whole training program on how to really detox at the deepest level. And if you go to our website, again, to the link that is /TCD, you'll see there's an opportunity for you to do a free neurotoxic questionnaire, and that could help you identify whether or not you are in that category that needs a bit more than just a 10-day or a 21-day. And again, we're happy to answer any questions for you on that. There's a video that you can watch on that website, on that page that is says Get Energy Today. And so if you check that out, it'll tell you a little bit more about how the TCD program works. All right, next source of stress, traumas. Okay, does this look familiar, right? So this is the time of the year when sledding could be the big macro trauma that you get hit with, right? Car accidents, sports injuries, slips and falls this time of the year. These are the things that are the obvious physical stresses or traumas that we might encounter. And yes, they often are going to cause pain and overt signs of damage. And yes, they can be serious as well, for sure. But they can also cause something that might not be so obvious. So when you have a jarring of your spine, remember that the vertebrae are acting like a suit of armor, protecting the delicate nerves that send messages to every part of the body. And so the nervous system is the master system. The brain is sending the messages down the spinal cord and then out through the nerves to go to all the different parts of the body. And so the nervous system is the communication system for your body. And it's what the intelligence in our body uses to coordinate everything so that we have high levels of function. If the nervous system is what's running our body, what's keeping us healthy and healing. And it's so delicate that it needs to be protected in bone. And that's why we have this suit of armor that is protecting our nervous system. And as long as our suit of armor stays healthy, our spine stays healthy, then the communication is going to be optimal and health is going to be optimal. But what happens when the communication breaks down? Like if you were in a company and the communication broke down within the company, you're going to see a breaking down of function in that, and it's not going to be good. What about if in a factory communication breaks down, or in a family communication breaks down, or in your body? So communication is everything. If you want a healthy body, then you have to have a healthy nervous system. If you want a healthy nervous system, you have to have a healthy spine. So the nervous system is what also helps us cope with stresses. And the definition of health is your body's ability to adapt readily and appropriately to your environment and to the stresses that you're aware of, right? Let's say that again. The best definition of health I know is to be able to readily and appropriately adapt to your environment, adapt to the stresses that you're under. That's what health is. And so if you have anything that interrupts the communication, we call that a subluxation. When there is trauma that creates nerve system stress and interference in the communication system, then it's going to affect your body and it's going to affect your brain as well, because it's going to change the information that is going to and from the body and the brain. So when that happens, that's going to interfere with healthy function and your ability to heal. And so we call this condition subluxation, vertebral subluxation. So this is what happens. The joint can misalign when we have traumas or jarring of the spine. We get joint misalignment. That then leads to soft tissue damage. The soft tissue damage actually causes this inflammation and nerve irritation. And when we have the inflammation and the nerve irritation, remember that nerve irritation is affecting the flow of information. It's going to be altering the flow of information from the brain to the body and back again. And so when the nerves are being irritated, your smart body is actually going to spasm the muscles that usually would be acting as pulleys to move the bones around. That muscle is going to change into a strapping system to strap down that joint so that it stops moving. When it stops moving, the nerves are going to be less irritated. However, the discs in between the bones need to have pressure on and off to squeeze toxins out and to suck nutrients in. So a normal disc will use the motion in this joint to keep itself healthy. When we strap down the joint, we may get bulging of the disc or even a herniation of the disc. And we're going to get over time this loss of imbibition, meaning the fluids are not going in and out. It's going to lead to a degeneration of the disc. And over time, that's going to lead to a thinning of the disc. And when you have disc degeneration with bone spurs and osteophytes forming, that can further interfere with the flow of messages between the brain and the body. So when you have the lost imbibition, the joint fixation, now what also happens is when this joint, which usually when it's moving, it will include messages going to the brain saying, we've got healthy movement happening here. We've got healthy movement. And if we have healthy movement, the brain's going to say, that's cool, that's great. We can just be at ease. But when you strap a joint down, that's strapping the joint down, which stops the motion in the joint. We're now going to have signaling going to the brain saying, we've got trouble down here and we've stopped motion here. And the brain will actually go into an increased stress response in the whole body. So we will have elevated stress hormones in the body overall whenever we have subluxations. And so that is so important because when we lose the input from what are known as mechanoreceptors in the joints, when those mechanoreceptors are no longer sending the proper healthy movement messages to the brain, we start to lose the stimulation to the brain. So just like a windmill that generates electricity because of the movement in the spine is what's generating electricity to the brain. When we strap down the joints in the spine, we're going to lose that generating of electricity and energy for the brain. And so that's going to lock us into a stress response, and that'll produce more stress hormones. Now, the cerebellum, which is in the base of the brain, relies on input and movement. And when it does have the input and movement, it will help to regulate and set the body into rest and repair mode. But if it gets locked into a sympathetic mode of stress, then we don't go into rest and repair mode. And so we have an inability to recover from stress. And so whether it's real or perceived or a chemical stress, the same thing happens where we get this adaptive physiology happening. And it changes our body's innate ability to heal and to be healthy. So once again, if we look at that stress response, right, if we have subluxations, we are then driving an ongoing stress response here, which is going to affect all these different functions in the body. So subluxations cause nerve irritation and interference in your body's innate ability to heal and remain healthy. All right, does this look familiar, right? Well, you don't have to have a sledding accident in order to get subluxated. Even things like shoveling snow could actually cause subluxations, especially if you're not using proper technique and posture when you're shoveling. But guess what? You don't even need to shovel snow to get subluxated. Does this look familiar? Right? So it turns out that this posture that you can see in so many people because of the use of devices and technology, right? This is actually affecting all of us, right? How many people here feel like they just are spending way too much time sitting in front of a screen, right? How about your family and your kids? And how many of you think that this is probably unhealthy in many ways, right? We all are in agreement about this. So one very serious way that this is causing a problem is what we call microtrauma. So microtrauma is when we have low levels of stress, postural stress over time. It's not the same as getting your spine jarred like from a sledding accident or a car accident or a sports injury. That's a macro trauma. But if you have low levels of postural stress, poor posture, that is creating something called microtrauma. And sitting is the new smoking, right? How many feel like you're spending way too much time sitting now than ever before? And how about our kids, right? The last year with them having to be online doing all of their studies, sitting so much more than ever before. Well, experts agree that modern life is already tragically sedentary. We spend way too much time sitting. And those same experts are telling us that we're spending the majority of our times, or of our waking times, sitting 8 to 10 hours a day is what the studies are now showing. And that actually is ending up being 7 days a week that we're doing this. And that's directly related to an increase in obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and statistically directly related to a shorter, sicker life. So that's why they say sitting is the new smoking. And what makes matters worse is we're spending most of that time sitting in front of a screen. So if sitting's the new smoking, screens are the new crack cocaine, right? And this, my friends, is what's leading to a cause of increased stress in our bodies and in modern life. So how do we reconcile this? So we want to move for recovery. And so the 4-minute workout is one of the best tools I know of to just get that movement and that exercise in. So I have a great 4-minute workout that I lead. And if you just start moving your body, even just 4 minutes, it's going to start to trigger that energizing and that increasing in metabolism. So again, just get your body moving. And really, you need to look closely at how much you're sitting, and especially in front of screens. And so let's look at how this is impacting us just from the mechanical stress. So this is what I mean by the micro trauma. So if you look at what this is doing to you, when your posture, or even your kids' posture, how about your kids' posture as well? We know that it is posture is the window to the spine and the nervous system. And so the biophysics experts tell us that posture and mechanical stress in your spine actually is causing trouble through the whole spine. When we have, like, for example, I have here, stop this here for a second so I can show you what I mean here. So if your head, say it weighs 10 pounds or so, and you hold the head forward, it's kind of like if you have a weight, this is a 10-pound weight, right? If I hold this 10-pound weight up right over my head, right, then I can manage that so-so. But if I start to hold this out in front, I'm going to be working harder and harder the further out this is in front of my center of gravity, right? If I have it in close to my center of gravity, I can handle it better than if it's out in front. It's the same weight, but I'm working harder and harder. And so when we have our bowling ball head, right, weighs about 10 pounds, the further out in front it is of our shoulders, it literally can take years off your life. So let's go back to our screen share here. And so we see that, again, if our head, center of our head is right over our shoulders, our 12-pound head is costing us 12 pounds of work. But if we go 15 degrees forward, our 12-pound head is now costing us 27 pounds of work. If we go 30 degrees forward, it's 40 pounds of work. If we go 45 degrees forward, which this is the usual posture that people are on devices with, it's 49 pounds of stress happening right through here. And again, this is right where the brainstem lives. So this is where all the control centers are for all the organ systems, right in the top of the neck. So this mechanical stress is a big problem, and it can affect your health. Let's see here. All right. And the reason it affects your health is because when we look at inside the spine, what we see is that it's really like a fuse box. It's like a power panel. And so all the messages are going from the brain out through the nerves to go to the different organ systems. Just like a fuse box goes to the different rooms in the house, this is where we can see that the spine is the power panel. And if you have a subluxation, it could actually interfere the same way a fuse that blows, and now that room is not getting the electrical supply that it needs. If we have a subluxation, that organ is not going to get what it needs. And so we can see here the map of the nervous system, the central nervous system, the brain, and the spinal cord are carrying the messages. And then the peripheral nervous system carries the messages from the brain to the cells and back again. So we have the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system feeding the organ systems. And we know what this map of the nervous system is, just like if you go down to your fuse box, you know the map of which rooms these nerves go, the wires go to. And so we know if we look at where the subluxations are in the spine, we know what organs could be being affected. So for example, down here at the kidneys and the adrenal glands are down here. Well, adrenal glands, the adrenals are what we use to manage stress as far as the hormone levels go. Or if we have our cardiovascular system, the heart is controlled by here as well as by this region here. And when you have that tech neck, poor posture, that puts a lot of stress right in the upper back. That's the nerve supply right to the heart, as well as up in the top of the neck, nerve supply right to the heart. So if we have disturbances in the flow of messages between the brain and the body, we're going to start to see a breakdown in function. Now, the woman that I had mentioned earlier that was so subluxated, when we did our analysis, she couldn't take her bus ride to go to New Hampshire for shopping, right? Remember her? She definitely had patterning in her nervous system where she was subluxated in this area as well as this area, and it was tanking her energy. Another woman that was under care with us, she came in because, again, she had low energy. She also struggled with asthma and allergies. And so for her, we had found subluxations in a different area, but it was tanking her energy levels as well. And once she got under care, she was able to get off of all of her medications, and her allergies improved significantly along with her asthma. Another woman that was under care, she had digestive complaints, and she was also an athlete. And she was raving coming through the holidays this year because everybody else was getting sick and she was not getting sick at all. And usually she was the one that would be already the one most vulnerable. And so not only was her athletic performance improved, but her immune system also was improved. So a lot of these folks, they came under care thinking that they had to just learn how to live with these things. And the next thing you know, we're finding what the underlying cause is, correcting it, and they're getting that huge improvement in their quality of life and getting back to living their life at the level that they want to. And of course, they bring their friends, their families in as well, because once they have this experience, they're thinking, oh, I better get my kids checked, because what if they got subluxations and they could correct those much sooner? So this is that idea of that pivot point. What if we could actually just be checking kids early to see if they have any of these subluxation patterns and correcting them as soon as possible? So if you know anybody that's struggling, again, just reach out to us. Let us know how we can help. Just contact us through our website at wellspringcls.com, and we would love to see how we can help. Now, when people come in, how do we do an assessment? How do we know if they have subluxations? Well, again, just remember this, that your spine is the electrical panel that contains the circuit breakers to your body. So how would we analyze that? Well, if it was in your basement, the electrician would go down, they'd see where those short circuits were. Well, how do we detect that in the body? How do we know if you have a subluxation? Because subluxations, just like cavities, they can be silent, so you wouldn't necessarily know that you had them. And so we use many tools to be able to analyze and detect the presence of subluxations. We use motion palpation, where we're literally feeling the spine to see if it's locked up in any of those joints. Remember, we said that if there's nerve irritation, the muscles will spasm and lock that joint down. So we check the motion in those joints to see where there may be subluxations. We also use static palpation to simply feel, is that fuse blown or not? Like, is there literally a misalignment of that vertebrae? We also like to use posture. So people that have had tech neck or are using a lot of devices or are sniffing the monitors all day long, right? We're going to see that showing up with poor posture, and that's going to be an indication of subluxations as well. We may use x-rays and refer you to go get some x-rays, because that actually may give us an insight into how long you've had the subluxation patterns and whether or not there is degenerative change that has gotten a start. And also we like to use instrumentation. So the instrumentation actually helps us to look at what is happening in the nerves that run the muscles, what's happening to the nerves that run the organs, how much damage is there to those nerves, and is it correctable? So the instrumentation is really valuable. And we use case management. So we're going to talk to you. We're going to find out what your story is. What are the accumulation of stresses and traumas that have come up? how is it affecting your life? And what are your goals? What level of health do you want to have? What kinds of functions would you like to be doing? And then we can figure out what's the underlying cause and whether or not we can help. And so all of this information, we bring it together to determine what the cause of the problem is so we can correct that and not just treat the symptoms, right? People that come to see us, they want to get better. They want to feel better, but they also want to function better. And they know if they're going to be able to say that they're functioning better, we have to have ways of measuring it. So once you correct once you find what the cause is, that's how you know how to correct it. And again, we can't do that unless we get to what the root of the problem is by doing this thorough analysis. So the nervous system is the window to your health. And we actually do have these scans that we run that looks at whether there is damage in the nervous system that is compromising the function of your body. And again, knowing what that map of the nervous system is, knowing at what level the nerve damage is, we know what that map is, where those nerves go to, and how it could be affecting your health. And so the subluxations, literally, you can think of them as scars on the nervous system, and they're indicators of dis-ease. Dis-ease happens before disease, right? You have to have a loss of function before the disease actually shows up. And so subluxations are what are initiating the downward spiral of disease. But we want to, again, create that pivot as early as possible and correct these subluxation patterns so people can get that full level of optimal health that they really want. So getting checked is going to be the key thing to know whether or not you have subluxations. And so then getting adjusted for recovery, specific chiropractic adjustments to correct subluxations are the key here. And so we use a very gentle light touch approach, and only chiropractors are trained to find and correct subluxations. It's a very specific art and science that we use to identify, locate, and correct subluxations, help your body to correct these subluxations. We use gentle techniques in our office, very light touches along the spine that helps the brain to find where it has strapped things down and how it can then start to heal that and release that and correct the subluxations so that we can realign and return normal function and normal motion to the spine and reduce the stress and the interference to the nervous system. And that then normalizes the nervous system's input and communication, and that is how we get the results that we get. Because remember, the body was designed to be healthy. We just have to reconcile what's getting in the way of the body being able to run itself in the healthiest way possible and to readily and appropriately adapt to the stresses that you're encountering. Chiropractic is the safest and most effective, largest drug-free approach to health in the world. Millions of people are getting adjusted and have been doing so for over 100 years. And so again, very effective to just remove the interference so the body can function at its highest level. So again, how do you know if you have a subluxation? You've got to get checked. It's the only way to really know. And remember, I had talked about how there were many things that could cause subluxations. And when we look at the things that can cause the subluxations, right, it was the stresses and the traumas and so on. But we know that when we think of the healthcare crisis that we do have, we know that one of the third reason that people have the problems they have and we have the crisis that we have today is, remember the first one was changing their definition of health, thinking that it's just how they feel. The second one was not taking responsibility for their health. The third reason is procrastination. Procrastination is the thief of health. I will tell you this, I've seen this over and over again. And in fact, one of the women in our practice, she came in a few years ago, and then something came up and she couldn't start the program of care that she wanted to start. And then, one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, 5 years goes by and she comes back to the practice. And we were able to do a second scan, like to update her scans and to update what had happened in her nervous system. And things had gotten worse. And so she regretted that she had just kept putting it off instead of just coming in. And of course, when you put things off, things get more complex, they get harder to fix. And sometimes it gets to a point where we can't have the level of correction that we would have liked to have had. So procrastination is the thief of health. And I know that there are lots of reasons why people don't do what they want to do. And I want to acknowledge that people that are watching this webinar, there's kind of two groups of you out there, I think. One group of you, you are putting into place the things that you want to get your health at the level that you want. And so if you're happy with your health outcomes, just keep doing those things and just level yourself up to the next level. So you just keep working towards that level of health that you really want at that optimum level, and how to protect that once you get there. But if there's those of you that are not happy with your health outcomes, you're the people that I really want to talk to. I want to get you into the office so we can check you to see if subluxations are the thing that is interfering with your health. And so if you're not happy with your health outcomes, then you need to think about, what do you have to do differently? You can't keep doing what you've been doing and expect to get different results. And so procrastinating and putting it off, I know there are lots of stories, reasons, barriers of why people don't take action. Some of those reasons, and I really see them as excuses because I see where these things go. I know if we don't take care of subluxations, where they go. And so many times people have stories that they tell themselves that just keep them stuck. Things like, oh, I'm too busy and I don't have time to worry about my health right now. Or, but somehow when a crisis happens, there's always enough time to deal with it when that happens, right? Or some people think, oh, it's too hard to make these changes. But how are things going right now? I mean, if you're struggling right now, it's already hard. So what is it that you need to do to change so that you can get the outcomes that you want? Other people find that maybe finances is a concern. Maybe it's money. People say, well, it's nothing's more expensive than getting sick. We know that. But regardless of what is going on for you, I want to make it easier for you. And so I've talked with my team, and we have come up with the usual cost of the new patient exam is $220. But for people that really want to take action, I've set aside some spots where we're going to cap the cost of the new patient exam to $47. And so this week and next week, we have 4 spots that we've set aside. So please get in touch with us right away if you want to see if you can grab one of those spots. And I just hope that you don't wait, because once they're gone, they're gone. So we only have a limited number of time that we can put towards this. And so, but we really wanted to help people that wanted to take action, because procrastination is the thief of health. So I hope this will urge you to take action, to get in touch with us. Again, just go to wellspringcls.com and you can reach out to us. Let us know that you're interested in one of our specials. And that's for $47. And again, we just have 4 spots this week, 4 spots next week. And I hope they're still here when you contact us. And if you have questions about anything, of course, you can reach out. If you're not ready right now to take that step, but you have questions, just reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions that can help you. And some people were asking, well, what if I have friends and family members? Of course, if we have the spaces available, then they can use this too. So just reach out to us so that we can see how we can help. And, I have people that have been in this practice for a while, and I have new people that are joining all the time. And one fellow recently came into the practice, and he wasn't sleeping well because he was having seizures while he was sleeping. And it was hard for him to go to sleep because he was afraid he was going to have a seizure. And he's been under care just for a couple of weeks now, and he's already getting deep sleep again, and he's not having the seizures during his sleep. So people, the way that stress can affect people this time of the year, recovering your energy, it's so important. Don't put it off, and let us know if we can help. All right, take care, everybody, and take some action.